All right, guys. So, welcome to our second Mysteries of the Faith event. And this week we're going to be talking about if Jesus, after he rose from the dead, was supposed to be in the perfect human form. Why did he still have his wounds from when he was crucified and beaten and whipped? Because in most people's eyes, a wound and a scar would be considered like it's a flaw in your body. It's a damaged part. And once you're scarred or wounded, it's by definition damage and imperfection. And so, if he's in his perfect form, why did he keep these quote unquote imperfections on his body? And before I go into my opinion on this, is there anything you guys would like to share on how if you've come about this topic before, or what you might think the reason would be?
Yeah, so I think that this is like a really beautiful topic to talk about, um, because like I think it's kind of one of those things that like when you first hear, you're like, yeah, like why is that? Um, but like I think that's such a beautiful picture of like who God is and who Jesus is, to willingly, because God can do anything, right? And can be anything. And it's evidenced even when we talk about Jesus coming as like a baby, right? Like why? when Jesus could have come as like this great king, but it's just more evidence of who God is. And like why does Jesus still have those wounds and those marks? And I just think it's such a beautiful image of how Jesus is inviting us in such a personal way. And like how it's always hard to come to someone or to turn to someone, I think, when you're not sure if they're going to understand, or you're not sure if they will really get it, or like anything like that. But um to see that on Jesus, right? To physically see those marks is, like, for me personally, is just such a powerful reminder, that like Jesus is not afraid of the mess, and he's not afraid of the pain, and he's not afraid of any imperfection that I could bring. And instead he's inviting me into it, and he's saying, like, look here, like I have those same marks. Like come meet me here, or like I'll come meet you there. Like if you can't come meet me, like that's fine. Like I'll enter into your space, and I'll enter into your mess. And like I'm not afraid of it. Like I'm not afraid of the wounds. I'm not afraid of the pain. And I just think that's, like, for me personally, like that's just such a powerful reminder of that, because like I don't know, I know I personally need that reminder a lot. So yes.
Yeah, I think also like this image of Jesus as the wounded healer is kind of like it's a contradiction that really, if you like look into our faith, there are really so many things that kind of at least appear to be contradictions, like and I don't know, I think like I just have like the personality that loves to like enter into that, because it's something that's so beyond like anything that I could like understand. So there's a lot of room for contemplation, and there's a lot of room for learning. But I think also like just it's like a representation as well of God extending or going beyond like any expectation we could ever have. So we would come to things like expecting him to be this perfect being, and he is. And having wounds does not take away from that. Like that doesn't make him not perfect, but it kind of, to me, is one of the many examples of kind of how he breaks through like this mold of our understanding and far surpasses like anything that we could ever ask for, kind of by just like entering into the unexpected, and by just like embodying, like, I don't know, I think I mumbled my words at the end, but I just like really love contemplating on just like that image, like wounded healer. I think that's like one of my favorite things to pray over. It's like beautiful in a way that like even as I try to like understand it, I don't think I ever fully will, but I'm almost like happier with that than I would be with feeling like I've got it all down, you know, and like, like I understand everything.
Okay. So the reason I came up, or what made me come up with this topic, was actually when I was a freshman in high school and we were having an introductory course on Catholicism. Uh, we in our religion class we were given an essay assignment on this exact topic. If Jesus was in his perfect form, why did he still have the wounds? And I remember a lot of my classmates kind of took the angle of how the wounds were proof of the opposite, that he wasn't in fact perfect yet. They went on some sort of journey trying to say like he wasn't in his perfect form yet, like he had to get to heaven first or something or other. But I don't think that's the right way to go about it. In fact, I went in the opposite direction, saying that those wounds are in fact proof of his perfection in that state, where there are a couple of really, like, I think three really big facets to how this works. The first being humans need evidence. Like we have the classic saying, like, seeing is believing. Like symbolism, like seeing things, have like one thing representing another, it plays such a huge role in our mind, and it leaves such a longer lasting impression. Like God is all powerful. He can go about doing whatever he wants, how he wants. God could have saved all of our souls with a snap of his finger, but then no one would know. Like you can see it played out throughout the Old Testament all the time, whether you believe it's more metaphorical or if it's literal. Either way, the things that are constantly happening to the Israelites in the Old Testament is God puts them, like they manage to find themselves in a really tough situation. And then rather than just snapping his fingers to save them, God leads them through a trial to teach them a lesson and gets them to the end point to where they're ultimately at a better place. And the goal being to teach them and help them improve and to show them his love. Because if he just snapped his fingers, it'd be so much easier just to go in one ear and out the other and you forget about it. So that's one huge thing for me, is just the action of doing it and then leaving those scars there as a reminder to everyone of what he's done for us plays a huge role. And then on the topic, on what I brought up earlier about how for most people you would consider a scar an imperfection, like a wound is damage. Now imagine you're in a burning building and you got like some horrific scar wherever it is on your body. You probably end up being embarrassed by it. You don't want it. You wear whatever you could to cover it up. But now think of it more as, say, you save a family member, like you run into a burning building to save a child, and you get some kind of maiming scar. I don't know about you guys, but I would wear that with pride. I would be proud that I had that scar. I'd be proud of what I've done. Why would God want to erase the marks of what he's done for his children? Like we always talk about uh, how great the love is for like a mother and her child. Where like you take a normal person and you put them in harm's way and they'll run away from it. But you take a child and put them in harm's way, and their mother, with no fear of the danger, will charge headlong to grab their child and save them in any way they can. And whatever happens to them, in most cases, it's unregretted, because if so long as you save the child, you're proud of what you've done. You're okay with the result. And if God is perfect love, true love, fulfilled love, and it's all directed at us, how could those scars be a point of shame or a point of imperfection? Those scars are the greatest mark of love he can show us. This incorporeal being who can be harmed by nothing in known existence took on the most vulnerable form he could, flesh and bone, and then plotted a course for himself to be slaughtered in one of the most gruesome ways available at the time. And then he comes out, and the form he chooses to leave himself in is that battered and maimed form that he took on to save all of us. And how could that be seen as imperfection? That is his perfect love. Those scars are his perfection. Um, Honestly, that's way more beautiful to me than just the slate being wiped clean. And actually, one more thing, uh, the idea that Jesus doing what he did, saving our souls, he took on the sin from our damaged souls, and he took them onto himself. Those scars are almost like symbolically going from like he was like he was a perfect person, and yet he was still crucified and killed, and he came out with all these horrific scars. The process of him cleansing our souls and taking that onto himself, being the sacrificial lamb, it left his body marked. Those scars are a sign of the yoke that he took upon for us. Um, I think that's all I've got to say on it. So if you guys have anything more to say, go ahead.
I think so. I was just like thinking while you were talking about all of that, and like thank you for sharing that all with us too. Um, and like I think like something that I just was reminded of like as you were speaking about that um, was just like what. Also, can you guys hear me? I'm sorry. There's something really loud outside my window. So if you can't hear me, just let me know. But um, so it's just like such a beautiful reminder, I think, of like Jesus in his humanity as well, because like that whole concept of, you know, Jesus being fully God and fully man, you know, fully divine and fully human. Um, like sometimes I kind of forget one side or the other. And you know what, I think it brings a lot of beauty to humanity in, you know, in that way. And you know, like because I think it's easy sometimes to see the beauty in the divinity, and but you know what Jesus also did was bring that beauty to humanity, um, and to see that's like manifested in Christ, who yes is fully God and fully divine, and perfect in every way, and then to see that humanity on him, you know, something that like we can see in ourselves. It's like we can see that reflection of ourselves in him in such a different way from everything else that, you know, that he shows us, like every other type of, you know, reflection or every other way that he shows his humanity. I think is just another example of that, I guess. And just another beautiful example of his perfection and his grace and his goodness, you know, to like almost in a way like hold up this mirror to ourselves, but instead of like in a condemning way or in a way that's, you know, like bringing shame on it, it's bringing beauty on it, and it's seeing it in a new light and a new, just seeing it in like a good grace, you know, and just that beauty that surrounds it, because of course there is no like condemnation in Christ, and there's nothing less than beauty in his eyes. And to see that, like to see our humanity reflected in such a beautiful and a positive way, like with Jesus, and like especially in that form of those scars and those wounds, and to see that in such a positive light, I don't know. I just think that's so beautiful, and it reminded me of that when you were speaking. Marcus, and when you were, you know, talking about like kind of almost like wearing that with pride and with beauty and with grace. So it was just like something else that I had thought of as well as you were speaking.
I think like also like as you guys were talking, I just was thinking about like there's so many instances where we see throughout our history of salvation. So even from, you know, the Old Testament on, that there are so many times where like God always has the choice of power, and he usually chooses to enter into vulnerability, which I think is so beautiful, and is kind of like one of my favorite words to use. So not to like overdo that or anything, but I think sometimes like we need to see that vulnerability where we expect to be met with kind of like power and to be told things in kind of a more I don't even know the word that I'm looking for, but I think that like that showing vulnerability like really breaks open our hearts in a way that like we don't understand in kind of like the way that we expect things to be presented to us. So when we're kind of like again like put into this unexpected but so like such a beautiful pathway, and see like God who has every option and who has every power and is perfect, but to still choose to be vulnerable. I think that does something like so powerful.
All right, that was awesome, guys. And Elizabeth, I'm really glad that you pointed out that like you got those ideas from hearing me talk, because that is what I really strive to do with these meetings. I've been coming into these meetings with maybe a couple minutes worth of talking points, but after letting you guys go before me, it helps me gather my thoughts and really put together what I want to say, and really helps the meetings flesh out more. And it's the back and forth that really makes these great, and why I'm really hoping we can get more people in here. But this is exactly how I want them to go, where we just build off each other. And so I'm really glad that's starting to take shape and work out. But thanks for coming, guys. It's been a great meeting, and